Hello, people. Welcome to another show that we're doing here at the Lee Cole 3 podcast with my partner, James Proctor. James, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Lee. I appreciate it. Looking forward to doing a recap of the month's best mob stories.
And something we had our stories lined up, but then Mikey Scars came out and did a live and kind of jumped into our. We're basically going to talk about what we think were the biggest stories of the month.
Right.
Our opinion. There's been many stories. You can't catch them all, but
hmm
Uh, first of all, real quick, let's talk. Gene Borrello was part of the stories. We're not going to jump on him too long. Real
hmm
quick, his charges that they pulled up at 12 additional charges, and if he gets out, I'd be very surprised. Would you be surprised if he gets out when his first sentence is up in May?
Yeah, I would be. So it looks like what, May 9th, I believe is the date. So a little over a month. So, I know that what we're going to be seeing between now and then is the prosecutors and his attorneys trying to come up with some sort of agreement that they can go to Judge Block and get some resolution. So, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens May 9th. But they are working on that at this moment, trying to come up with some sort of satisfactory agreement with all parties.
Okay, yeah, and if he does get out real quick, I feel sorry for some people he knows down in Florida
Yeah.
because of the fact that there was a lot of things that were retracted in the stuff
hmm
that we put up, and the stuff that was retracted had to do with drugs
Yep.
and firearms.
Yep.
So
Drug star and think steroids as well,
and
maybe.
still, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's get to the next part. That's it
hmm
on Gene today.
Yep.
Okay, what do you think of? Okay, so Mikey Scars came out, did a
hmm
show yesterday.
Yep.
Why don't you give us the general rundown of the show? Because he, first of all, okay, I'm going to talk about Angel Gotti.
Yep.
I know Angel Gotti. I talk to Angel Gotti all the time, and one thing I can guarantee people, because Mikey Scars is coming out and sticking up for uh, some of the positions that Angel's been saying, doesn't mean that him and Angel talk. They do not talk,
Nope.
not even once. You got to remember, this man did a lot of damage to her family, a lot of damage to his friends. This man put a lot of people away.
Yep.
But to be fair to him, he's come on here now and he's been telling the truth and challenging Sammy.
Yep.
And he pretty much said this yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what he was talking about is that, it's basically, regarding that part of the conversation, he was saying that, he's just here to, tell the truth. He lived in that era. He knew he knew John Gotti, he knew Junior, he knew and respected and actually looked up to Sammy for a long time. But the problem is that Sammy continues to lie and change his story, and it's continuing month to month. And
And what's some of the examples of the lies that he's? What did Mikey Scar say yesterday? Were some of the lies that have been said recently by Sammy Gravano?
yeah, so we're going back to the question about or the statement that Sammy's been saying lately that John Gotti wanted Sammy to take the rap so that John could be on the street. Sammy saying that that John said the boss has to be on the street. The street needs the boss, and there's no evidence of that. You look back in Sammy's book, he doesn't mention that. The only thing that Sammy mentions in the book is that he started thinking after hearing the tapes that maybe Gotti was trying to pin everything on him, but it never actually happened. And you remember that it was almost a year after the tapes were first played that Sammy heard before he flipped. So he had a lot of time to think about stuff. And so, you know, Gotti never wanted Sammy, to take the fall, and that's Sam, and so that's what Mikey Scars is saying. That's what we're saying too, from our evidence, what we found online, what we have looked at in the 302s. I mean, there's no evidence of it, but that's the problem. He just continues to change his story over time, and it's we're just trying to get history right. That's people like Mikey Scars actually was with these people, and
And
then
we,
we're just trying to do the same thing, get the truth out as
what's
well.
one of the things Sammy said about his son Gerard that Mikey Scars kind of turned on him yesterday?
Yeah, so what was said was that supposedly Sammy agreed not to say anything bad about Junior Gotti in the 302s or court testimony, and because there was an agreement that he would leave Junior alone as long as the Gambino family left Gerard, his son, alone. And uh, you got to understand with especially with Cosa Nostra, especially with this family, this crime family, they did not go after family members. Gas Pipe might with the little Casey's, but the Gottis, that the crime family, the Gambinos would not go after Sammy's family. And Sammy knew that. Sammy has actually admitted in his podcast that he had no fear at all that they would go after his family. So when you start having this new narrative that, oh well, I didn't go after Junior because I didn't want them to go after Gerard. That's just nonsense. And I believe Sammy did talk about Junior in the testimonies. He talked about Junior getting made. I also believe he talked about Junior being on some of the hit teams. So there's no truth on that. It's just the government at that moment was interested in taking down, John Gotti at that point.
And would you say Mikey Scars is pretty much he wants to keep history the way it's supposed to be, and Sammy's trying to flip the history, like make it like Sammy is Superman?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and also understand with Mikey, this is something they talked about, which I thought was very appropriate. So RJ and Mikey's been getting criticism. They've been saying, "Oh, well, Angel and the family's got them in their back pocket and all of that." There's no truth of that. There's definitely not going to be any sort of that type of agreement. In fact, if you listen to the Patreon and the YouTube videos, there are many times that Mikey has criticized both Junior and John Gotti. So he's trying to be fair the best he can, and he's given his perspective of being there with them in history.
And they're growing their RJ is growing that show differently than say another show coming up, and we're going to talk about another show coming up.
Yeah.
The shows that are growing, RJ is they've relied on the Patreon, and how many people did they said they had in their Patreon right now? It's a large number, isn't it like 500 or something?
Yeah, or maybe even over 1,000. I mean, there's
I
a
think he
there's
said
a
over 500.
500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was
yeah, and then over 10,000 on the YouTube channel. And
right.
so, yeah, and the other thing that was interesting about the conversation yesterday on the live, and saying that even Sammy admitted, remember that production that was done, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, where Sammy did a quote unquote sit down with Michael Francis, and it was facilitated by Patrick David or Patrick Bay David, I call it David, but Sammy admitted that it was just for show. He was just playing up the cameras, and there was never a real beef with Michael. And so that was another reason. Why would Mikey want to go on a sit down with Sammy if he's just going to do it for show? And so that was part of it. And then,
So he said. So let's get this straight.
yeah,
Mikey Scars said he would never sit with Sammy.
Mikey Scars said yesterday on that live he would never sit down with Sammy
Okay,
Gravano.
Mikey Scars, you said it. So if they come at you and offer you some kind of big bucks, remember what you said. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention, that what Mikey was offended by also, and this was something interesting to me, is that Sammy he uses this statement that I play chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And so, Mikey is offended by that. because he's saying, well, is being an informant playing chess? Is playing chess by killing your friends and business partners? Is that playing chess? And are people's lives a game? And so that's offensive to Mikey. And I do believe this about Mikey Scars, that he does care about the victims of Sammy Gravano and the families, and that he wants, at least the one thing that he can do is at least have history accurate. That's the perspective he is going through on this, in my opinion.
And what Mikey Scars has been saying must be true, because ever since Sammy opened up his mouth and then Mikey Scars went at him, Sammy just will not go at
No,
him anymore. And
no,
Sammy goes,
he
well,
nope.
and Sammy used the excuse that, oh, I'm not going to go at him because of the fact that if I go at him, it's just going to make this thing longer. No, Sammy, as long as you got lives and as long as you talk, there's going to be plenty of material for everybody.
Yeah, he's afraid that Mikey might get more subs or views or whatever. And so, Sammy's very petty. And so, and then, he still talks about people that he's killed, that he'd like to dig them up from the grave and kill them again, and just stupid stuff like that. I mean, Sammy is an angry, vindictive person. And,
Okay,
that's
while
the
we
way it
got this,
is.
before we jump on to the next story, we're going to say, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you have not. We'd really appreciate it. And if you can hit the reminder button, so when the show comes on, you will know. It's a little bell there. You just hit that, and that will give you the notice of when our shows come on. And also, if you want to donate to the show, remember, we do not go out and do live shows and beg for money. If you want to help the show, help support the show, you can send money to Cash App or PayPal, or there's a heart underneath here that you can hit and donate it that way. And that running under there right now is the way you would do it. Also, we have people saying that there's commercials on here. The commercials are here, people, because this is how we make our money on this show. Okay, we try to put up good quality shows. We try to run them as long as we can, and we just ask that you watch the commercials. That's your way of paying us, and it is appreciated. Believe me.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there something else anything else you want to say closing out with the Mikey Scars situation?
No, there's not. Just, again, appreciate everyone that's been supporting us. You know, the last, lately we're really doing well, and so appreciate that. And then, like I said, please, if you can support us, either watch the commercials or provide money through Cash App, or donate into, Cash App's the best
Yeah.
way. So it definitely goes to the show, and we're going to continue to build good content.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, this is just a statement I don't want to make. There's some people around here that like to make statements that we talk too much about the rats and
Mhm.
we're friends with them. First of all, no, we're not. This show gets attacked more by them than any other show.
Yep.
And but the reality is, in the mob genre, it's ruled by the rats. That's where you
Mhm.
get all your information from.
Mhm.
You would get no mob history if you didn't have these guys here, would you?
No, and that's why, I know, obviously, personally, I don't like ratting or informing. I wouldn't do that, but I
Likewise.
also understand, right, but I also understand, that the only way we can get information is either what the government tells us, which is slanted, or from these informants, which also slanted. And then so we've got to bring information that we can get and try to decipher and put out what's accurate. And so we have to go to informants to get a lot of this information. That's just the reality of this. Because if you're really in the life now, you're not going to be
Do we
on
call them up and
YouTube.
ask them to be our friends?
No,
Yeah,
not at
yeah,
all.
yeah. It's kind of funny that I've probably been attacked on here. I can name a dozen guys that have attacked me. Starting, from Gene Borrello said he was going to destroy this show a couple months ago.
Mhm.
Dominic Cicale
Cicale.
came at us
Yeah.
with a rap song. You can go on and on. I mean, John A. Lights called me a child molester. So the people that are complaining about it are the ones that never get attacked.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And we run this show one way, and we're going to continue to run this show this way because people find it entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have another thing that actually I was kind of surprised because Mob Rats, who doesn't usually do interviews, got a great interview.
Yep.
And that was with Paul Tanso.
Yep.
And give us an idea of who Paul Tanso is.
Yeah. So Paul Tanzo is what. Yes, you're always. He's definitely a made guy. He was made guy in the Philadelphia crime family. He never ratted.
And he started up in Boston, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, up in Boston is
And
where
when
he
he was
was.
younger, he went to jail on a murder charge, him and another guy.
Yep.
And they were eventually released because it was decided that they weren't involved with the murder.
Right, exactly.
And this is
Yeah.
Paul Tanso right here. And he's been having some trouble with Bobby Luisi. They've been really well. Actually, Paul Tanso has been going at Bobby Luisi. And so I'm sure Bobby Luisi is going to come out and give his side of the story. There's a lot of anger there. These guys came out together. They were friends together. They lived together. And now, once Paulie left the house, he said a lot of when he was being interviewed by Mob Rats, he said a lot of stuff, but a lot of stuff out there. I mean, not just a couple things.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a rundown on some of the things that he was saying about Bobby Luisi? And Bobby, just so Bobby Luisi knows, if you want to give your counterpoint, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, of course. And to be honest, I like both of them. I've known both of them for a while, and so they've been having this beef for over a year. And so like you said, Paulie and Bobby had lived together. Paulie has had a history. He'll admit it. He's got some mental health issues. He's got issues with health and even
major drug
narcotics, major drug issues. Yeah, and he was on the show with Bobby Luisi, and and they had an entertaining show. They would they seemed to really get along. But then about a year ago, Bobby accused Paul of stealing his computer and speakers, and so
and he called the cops
happened.
on him, didn't he, or something?
Yeah. So Bobby called the police on him because Bobby's side is that he needs to he didn't want to call the police, but he needed to be able to do a police report so he could get reimbursed by the insurance company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Paulie Tanso denies that he ever stole this, and he's saying that it was made up, and Bobby did it for the insurance. Is that correct?
Yeah. So he's trying to say it's an insurance scam that that Bobby, and then he kind of also started saying that in the interview that Bobby would get the donations from viewers to purchase new equipment, but then he still filed a police report, got reimbursed by the insurance company and all that, and so and then once and then part of it too is that Bobby didn't, Paulie's saying Bobby wasn't paying his share of the rent, and so Paulie had ran out of money, and it's just a lot of
here's what I don't understand
going on.
I'm gonna be honest with you, but here's what I don't understand. Whose the name was the apartment under? And if you're on a lease, they can't just throw you. The police can't just leave you out of the house.
Right. Exactly.
Did he just sign the lease over to Bobby Luisi? I mean, that would be one of the questions, because that part I just don't understand. Being that I have a lease, I know that if I put someone in here, they couldn't throw me out.
Right.
So that's a very questionable thing that Paul should answer it. Maybe Bobby will answer it.
Yeah.
But and I'm not saying one way or another. But that part sounds kind of peculiar. I don't think we're hearing the whole story there. Do you?
No, and so that's part of it. Obviously, in any of these stories, there's three sides to it.
Yep,
You've
exactly.
got his side, Bobby's side, and then the truth's in the middle. And so, we do know what we do know for a fact is that Bobby did call the police. There was a police report that was put out there. Charges got dropped. I don't know if charges ever got made against Paulie, but he's not in any danger of getting indicted or put in jail over the alleged theft. And so that
That's
part we
see,
do
that's
know.
where we got to question Bobby Luisi, because if
Right.
someone steals from you and you file some serious burglary charges like that,
Hmm.
those are pretty serious charges. But I think he did go to court for that or
Yes,
something.
he did. Yeah, I think they ended up, maybe Bobby didn't show up. I don't know what happened, but ended up getting dropped. That's what I do know, and I do know that Paulie admitted that during this time he was having some drug issues again. I know that he's had the issues with you know, with with his mental stuff, and so it's been, it's something that'll be with you all of your life. That's something that will never go away. He's able to stay medicated, but then the medication gives him
And
side
yeah, and then
effects.
he also said Bobby was taking his medication. He
Yes.
said that Bobby he was really hitting some low stuff. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I thought it
And
was. Yeah, it was pretty low. But what Paulie's basically, to as a just to sum that up, basically what he's trying to say is that Bobby's a minister, which is true. He's a pastor, but saying that what he does outside of the church or his ministry is not Christian like. That's basically what he's saying. Basically trying to say Bobby's a hypocrite. Is
oh,
what
you
he's
mean
saying.
like most ministers? Uh,
Yeah.
it's hard to be a gangster and a minister, or an ex-gangster and a minister. It's hard to combine the two because your
Yeah.
gangster thoughts are going to take over a lot. And
Yeah.
and then he said that Bobby always brags about having $2 million on the street, and it was really
Yeah.
$20,000 on the street.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, and
Exactly.
but you know what? He might be right about this stuff. And it's and and he used the part where Bobby destroyed his chair, his game
Hmm.
chair, and some stuff for chatting. And I would say to that, if you're a grown ass man and someone comes and destroys your stuff in front of you, why don't you just deal with it there? And
Yeah.
it's and I believe that there's truth in both sides. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe that when he got on there and just started going like that, he's a pretty pissed off man, especially if
Yeah.
he tries to get you locked up.
Well, and I think too, what I know though is that Bobby and Paulie go way back, and they were really good friends, and so this was emotional. I know for Paulie. Paulie felt betrayed. He really looked up to Bobby, and if you look at Paulie's personality, he's more of the the second. Bobby's kind of the leader, and he's kind of there with him. Is what
And
it is.
Paulie said that he sold a house with his family in Florida. He got like
Yes.
$20,000 out of it, and then he
Hmm.
decided to move to Boston. And he feels like Bobby took advantage of him.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
what it is.
it sounds like to me the in this relationship there was a person that was in charge and a person that followed. Uh,
Yeah,
I can see that between the two of them. To be honest with you.
yeah, yeah, that's what I see too. And I'll tell you though, just my personal experience is that I don't. It doesn't work out very. I've had friends live with me, best friends live. It just doesn't work out. It's just I don't know what it is, but it's just not. You get tired of each other. It's just you don't feel like you can relax if you're got other people that's living there with you. I just think through time it just gets it can put a tension on any relationship. But
And he's
that's
talking
my
and he's
experience.
talking about the people that Bobby is screwing, young
Yeah.
girls, and
Hmm.
put prostitutes, and he put everything into this
He's
story.
getting, yeah. I mean,
I mean,
I wasn't sure if he's talking about him or Anthony Arlotta, because I think Arlotta had a 17-year-old or something too.
yeah, when he married her. I mean, this one,
Yeah,
this one is totally weird. And then he says that Tom Lavecchia was a witness to this. He said that
yeah,
Stax was a witness to some of this.
yeah.
I guess because I actually was speaking to Tom Lavecchia. He never mentioned any of it. I asked him what he knew about the feud between them, and he said he really
Mhm.
didn't know much. As for Stax, I never asked Stax about
Right.
anything. But it's just one of those interesting things. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But
Yeah,
this is like a genre full of drama amongst informants,
yeah, yeah. It's just strange, you know.
and we talk about them because they're informants. And
Yeah, and my thing is a lot of that stuff. I think it's best if they try to keep it out of the out of YouTube, but you
one
know,
thing we learn on here on YouTube is it's easy for people because they'll pick up their video and get on their keyboard, start
mhm.
insulting people. It's
Yeah.
because that's how they do it, and
Oh yeah.
you're never going to make everybody happy. Someone's going to always
No.
be bitching on you, talking about you on their channel. That's just the way
Yeah.
this is, and there's nothing we can do to ever change it. And
Yeah, very, very true. And then, supposedly Paulie is involved in something to help. I don't know, he's doing something called the Gorilla Room. I'm not sure what that is, but I guess it's a group of people that's coming together. They
yeah,
try
it's
to
on
help each
Facebook. It's
other.
on Facebook. A matter of fact,
Oh, okay.
I'm a member of that group. Uh,
Okay.
there's not really much happening there. I don't really understand it, but
Yeah.
if that's where he wants to go live and stuff on Facebook,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That's kind of what he was saying. I guess that's kind of where he hangs out or whatever. So,
Okay, next
yep.
guy we're going to talk about, Dominic Cicale.
Yep.
Oh, imagine that, another informant that we got to talk about. I wish I could be talking about uh, Vinny Gorgeous, but Vinny Gorgeous is in prison because of the informant.
Yeah.
That's how this works. So we have no choice. We got to talk about another informant here, and his name is
Hmm.
Dominic Cicale. Now,
Yep.
Dominic Cicale has come on here. He's only been on for a couple months, and he seems to be getting a lot of notice,
Yeah.
and his show's taken off. Why do you think that is?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, the era of it. We've heard so much about Sammy Gravano, John Gotti, everything, in the 80s and 90s. There's all this information. But now after Gotti goes to prison, then it's like we don't hear anything else. And so, or we hear from people that weren't really in the life. And so, Dominic Cicale was really in the life. He also was around an interesting person with Vinny Gorgeous. He's part of that Bonanno crime family, which you had everything with Messino. And so, it's just very interesting stuff that we haven't heard before, and so that's why I think that it's just appealing, and
He's
plus
giving fresh news stories.
fresh new stories, and plus Dominic does well under camera. I think he's got some charm about him. He's got that what it factor, in my opinion,
He has the it
and
factor. But remember,
yeah,
he's still an informant. Uh,
yeah,
but you are right, and this is what we now. There's another informant. Boy, there's
hmm,
lots of informants around here, isn't there? By
yeah,
the name of Jimmy Calandra. And
yeah,
Jimmy Calandra has come out, and I don't think he really cares for um, Dominic Cicale because he
yeah.
came out and basically said that Dominic Cicale was in the mob in a time where it was weak. There was only a few guys around, and that's the reason he was a captain.
Hmm.
He has a good point, though.
Yeah, I mean, especially with everyone going to jail or being, you know, turning government witness, right?
There's few people out there, and you got this guy. He hits the street, and he's a captain within 2 years.
Yeah, and that part is true. But at the same time, I feel that Dominic was the real deal. He would have killed someone. He did kill people. I mean, that part is true. I wouldn't call him weak. call Vinny Gorgeous weak at all.
No, no. And Jimmy Clandress, remember, he was out in the street probably longer than Dominic Cicale with one around a certain family, and he never really became more than an associate.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
and he was around. But to be fair, too, back when he was with that group of people over there were a lot of, at Sparrow, you had Patera. I mean, you had guys that were just pure killers.
Oh yeah.
And the leader of that gang, Paulie Gialonzo, who got killed.
Yeah.
He was the leader of that gang, and he was supposed to be made, and a couple of them wind up being made, or one of them being made. But Jimmy is an informant too, so that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and he's also I'm not sure what the details are, but I know I saw something on Twitter. He's rebranding himself, and so he's, I guess, going to do either another channel, or he's rebranding his current channel into something else. But something to do with friends, sit down with friends, or something like that. But yeah, he's coming out with some a new direction, apparently.
And that's a show that didn't have to be rebranded if he was honest.
Right. Yeah.
That's what really hurt his show.
Yeah.
And because when he started his show off, he was one of the originals that came flying out of the gate. He
was. Yeah.
So rebrand, but you got to be careful how much you rebrand, because you already have a lot of viewers. You got to make your viewers trust you again more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to, and so that's what and it was, honestly, I was surprised at the amount of negative comments, with Chaz Palminteri and that, and so it's rough. So we'll see what happens, with his new brand or in direction.
So this is a new month coming up. Now we got baseball season started. We got April here. So we never know one month to the next what a month's going to bring.
Yeah.
Especially with and believe me, people, we know that we're missing a lot of stuff. Oh, one other thing too. There was a story about the Montreal mob done by Jeff Canarsie. And I want to make this perfectly clear. It was really good.
Okay.
And very knowledgeable stuff. And people that are knowledgeable don't have to worry about people that are not as knowledgeable. And I'm just going to say that as nice as I can.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy watching his stuff, because when he speaks, he seems like he doesn't bump into no bumps in the road. He knows exactly what he's saying and stuff.
Okay.
And, that's what I like to say about Jeff Canarsie. So that, because we did something on Montreal, but what we did was minor stuff. We covered a story and did it the best we can. And then you had Jeff come out and he did this long story.
Yeah.
With documents and everything. That's not us. We're not here to pull out, we're not going to be doing long series, because pretty much I'm not capable of that shit. I just don't have it in my head. I don't know if you're capable of it, James. I'm not.
Yeah, I've not even seen his Canarsie stuff, to be honest, and so I'm at a loss a little bit.
It's very good. You really should check it out. I would tell anybody they should check it out, because if you listen to the way he talks, it's obvious. I personally think he's the most knowledgeable guy of everybody here. But that's just me. That's just me, and I'm just going to be as honest as I can about it.
Okay.
And so is Jeff Nadeau, and I'm talking about other people right now that are out there. They work hard on their shows and stuff, and we all got to get along.
Yeah.
And try to build our shows. We don't need to be going at each other, especially when there's no reason to go at people.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, there's no reason, especially with this circumstance.
Okay. Once again, people, if you like this show, well, those are the stories. And like I said, if you think we missed a story or you want us to do something, put it underneath there when you put your messages down for us. We listen to them and stuff. We're working on a story. I can't tell you who, but we're working on a story that I'm looking forward to. And
I am too.
he's one of the most underrated rats of all time. He ratted on he put 70 people away himself.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on that. We're working on that. Probably by Monday.
Yep.
Hopefully it will be out. Would you say, James?
Yeah. If YouTube will,
Yeah,
approve it.
see, yeah, we have trouble because YouTube always gives us a hard time about they want us to
But,
wait before they
but we're
monetize.
not cussing. I mean, you don't have Danny
No
Trejo
cursing.
person, and we still can't get it.
Yeah, it's amazing. You got to wait. You got to wait. It's like this video is going up no matter what because it's the last day of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and I want this to close out the month. Okay.
Could I maybe bring up one thing I forgot to bring up regarding Sammy?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah. What I wanted to bring up is his. So he's got this new paid service so he's redoing his website as part of his rebranding, and so he's doing something called something about the backroom table, which I believe will be $5 a month. But so these interviews that had been promised for a couple of months are supposed to come out in April, and so one will be with Michael
Phil
Francis.
Leonetti.
Yep, and then Phil Leonetti, and then also Dominic Cicale. And my understanding is the first two interviews will be free, so you'll be able to see them. And then, I don't know how that's going to be done. I couldn't imagine Sammy actually doing the interview. I'm assuming there'll be somebody facilitating the
Probably
interview,
just
but
sitting down bullshitting. The worst
yeah.
interview I ever seen was when Sammy was interviewing Jimmy Calandra.
Oh wow,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh,
that was
he didn't
yeah,
even know who Jimmy Calandra was. He barely knew who he was.
yeah.
Uh, and and it's like it's going to be interesting to see how.
Oh yeah,
I'm
and
sure he
he's
knows who Phil Leonetti is. There's no
yeah.
doubt. He knows who Michael
Yeah,
Francis
they kind
is.
of did a few things together, at least knew each other, and also even after they both ratted. And then the other thing about Sammy, he's coming out with another movie or show will be about the hit with Johnny Keys.
Oh, the one he tells us the story on how Johnny
Yeah,
Keys died with his boots off, and
yeah, all that, and
yeah,
so and almost call him Jimmy Key, the Yankees old pitcher, but.
yeah.
But no, so yeah, he's doing that, but then also supposedly going to do a scripted TV show. But it's interesting. He's been trying for many years to get a show out there, and I just don't know what it is. It may either be that Hollywood doesn't have the appetite for
No,
mob
Hollywood doesn't
content.
have an appetite for an 80-year-old man playing in a movie.
Yeah,
That's what it is. I mean, he wants to be the star of the movie. I mean,
yeah.
come on. I mean, 80 years. We seen that with Robert De Niro in that horrible movie that they made
Oh
on.
yeah, where they de-age it. Yeah, in the
Yeah, and they made them all look young, but they walked old. I
with pink
mean,
houses.
listen,
That one.
I'm
Yeah.
62. We can't pretend we walk like a 30-year-old man, even though we try.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, James, I appreciate
Yep.
anything you'd like to say before we leave.
No, that was it. This is fun doing this. I'm glad we'll be doing this every month.
Every month we'll be closing out the month this way.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, people, thank you so much. Like I said, please hit the subscribe button. We have that running right in here. If you want to donate to the show, that information will be under here too. So with that, thank you very much.